This is the Test Coordinator Training Module for Oregon's statewide summative assessment system, required for all district and school test coordinators. This is the first of a series of annually required training modules organized into the following topics. Module 1, Test Coordinators. Module 2, Test Administrators. Module 3, Accessibility Supports. Module 4, Test Security. Module 5, Summative Assessment in English Language Arts and Mathematics. Module 6, Summative Assessment in Science. Module 7, Oregon's Summative English Language Proficiency Assessment. Module 8, Seed Survey. Module 9, Interim Assessment Resources. And Module 10, Remote Test Administration Resources.
ODE has developed the annually required state test administration training to be provided in short, content-specific modules that can be delivered directly to district and school staff who will be serving as district-level users, school test coordinators, or test administrators. These modules do not attempt to address every requirement, policy, or consideration that each of these roles need to understand and follow for successful testing. The focus of these modules is to provide an overview of major topics and serve as an orientation to the manuals and other resources available. Each required module includes optional points to pause and discuss questions provided or to insert locally developed questions relevant to the topic. These slides are indicated by a blank slide layout with Q&A discussion as the title and may be edited for local use. These discussions should connect testing requirements to local context as well as allow for clarification during training, thereby incorporating the Q&A requirement referenced in the TAM. ODE has also developed optional one-page facilitation guides to accompany each module. These facilitation guides are intended to provide a high-level summary of the topics included in each required module and connect these topics to additional supplemental resources that support best practices for testing. Also, appropriate places to insert into the training modules references to local policies or procedures are indicated in the notes of the PowerPoint presentation version of each module, as well as the facilitation guide.
The topics included in this presentation are test coordinator roles and responsibilities, training requirements for each role, scheduling testing, student testing options, participation, and additional resources.
The following slides address training.
DTCs are responsible for ensuring all district and school staff involved in state testing receive the annual required training in test administration and security. DTCs are expected to coordinate and monitor which staff have access to the testing system and secure testing materials and data, which involves setting up the Oregon statewide assessment system portal user accounts with appropriate levels of access. Testing logistics handled by the DTC include tasks such as coordinating district and school-imposed test windows, considering the maintenance of secure storage and distribution of paper test materials, and coordinating with the local network administrator or IT department to ensure technical requirements are met for testing. DTCs are expected to manage student testing options, such as coordinating and monitoring student test settings in TIDE, ensuring students have access to the correct accessibility supports and test formats, such as extended or Braille, as well as ordering any paper testing materials, including large print or Braille extended tests. DTCs are encouraged to work with other district administrators and staff to develop and implement formal procedures for handling student crisis response papers in a timely manner. ODE can provide resources that can support districts in meeting this expectation upon request. It is the sole responsibility of DTCs to investigate and report testing improprieties and irregularities to ODE Test Security. Improprieties and irregularities will be covered in more depth in Module 4, Test Security. The DTC is the official district point of contact with ODE, but each DTC may appoint one or more district-level users, DLUs, to assist with these duties.
STCs are responsible for the following activities at the school level in support to the DTC. STCs are expected to ensure that all school staff involved in state testing receive the required annual training in test administration and security, including folks other than teachers such as classroom aides, instructional support staff, substitutes, and classroom volunteers. As the primary point of contact for testing at each school, the STC is expected to monitor student progress during testing and to ensure adequate documentation is obtained from the parent or guardian choosing to opt their child or children out of required state testing. STCs are expected to coordinate school-specific test schedules, ensure secure storage and distribution of all paper test materials, and collaborate with school network administrator or IT support to ensure technical requirements are met for testing. STCs are expected to coordinate and monitor student testing options such as test settings and TIDE, ensuring students have access to the correct accessibility supports and test formats such as extended or Braille. It is necessary for STCs to support DTC investigation of any test improprieties or irregularities. The following slides address training.
This is a summary of the annual training reading requirements for TCs and TAs. This information can also be found in Section 1.5, Training Requirements, in the TAM.
One of the most important roles of the DTC is to ensure that all STCs and TAs are trained annually. In addition to using the ODE-provided training modules, STCs and TAs must read the required sections of the current year's TAM and OAM, as well as submit the correct completed Assurance of Test Security form. Once trained, STCs can assist the DTC in training TAs within their school. Please note that any individual who will be interacting with students during administration of an Oregon statewide assessment is considered a TA and must complete the training. To protect the security and validity of the assessments, DTCs are also responsible for ensuring that all non-TAs understand the importance of maintaining security and have submitted a signed non-TA Assurance of Test Security form. This includes any person with access to the secure test environment or materials, but who will not be interacting with students during administration of a test, such as front office or technology staff. To review the highlights that test coordinators must follow when planning their local STC and TA trainings, first use these ODE-provided modules. Second, be sure to incorporate discussion, questions, and checks for comprehension into the trainings. Whether you are delivering the modules in person or having staff review them in advance, it is essential to ensure that staff have an opportunity to discuss requirements and seek clarification. This is also a great opportunity to engage staff in applying the requirements to your local context. Optional pause points to incorporate discussion have been built into the training modules. Third, coordinate with others in your district or school to identify all staff who need training. This may mean reaching out to the local EL coordinator to identify staff administering the ELPA or ELPA screener, or the local special education coordinator to identify staff who will be administering the Oregon Extended Assessments or the online tests in Braille. This may also involve identifying substitute teachers who may be involved in testing to ensure they are trained. Some districts may benefit from coordinating regionally on this point.
Here is a quick overview of the training modules that TAs are required to review. Modules 2, 3, and 4 are required for all TAs. Modules 5 through 10 are specific to the test or survey the TA will administer. Module 10 is for any TA who will be administering the summative assessment remotely. For example, a TA who is only administering ELPA in person is required to review modules 2, 3, 4, and 7, but does not need to review modules 5, 6, 8, 9, or 10.
Although the minimal required components for the annual training are established in the TAM, facilitation of those components may be locally determined. Some DTCs have reported that incorporating independent study time for added flexibility has proven to be successful. Establishing a system to track which staff have received training and submitted a signed assurance form is useful, regardless of the number of staff. TCs may only grant OSAS portal user accounts after staff have completed the training requirements. Anticipate how to handle makeup trainings to account for new hires, unanticipated substitutes, or volunteers. If the training is completed before winter break, provide a refresher or supplemental resources just before the start of each testing window. You can find these and other training facilitation tips in the TA Training Promising Practices document, available in the link at the bottom of the slide. In addition to ensuring that all staff receive their training before testing begins, test coordinators are also responsible for ensuring that all staff involved with testing receive any ODE-issued testing updates throughout the year. Examples include the weekly assessment and accountability update sent out to DTCs and others who have signed up to receive it each Thursday, just-in-time alerts sent out to the DTC listserv, and reminders about upcoming test windows, data submission deadlines, and scheduled downtimes. The Assessment and Accountability Checklist is a great resource for tracking upcoming events and due dates. Another communication resource available to DTCs to stay on top of the latest information is the monthly informal DTC webinars hosted by ODE. The schedule of webinars and links to join are included in the AA updates. Once staff have been trained, DTCs are also responsible for creating accounts in the OSAS system. STCs can also create user accounts for SRVs, TAs, and TTs within their school. Step-by-step instructions for creating district and school-level accounts, as well as descriptions of each user type, are included in the TIDE User Guide. This is an optional point in the required training to pause and discuss the questions provided, or a locally developed set of relevant questions. If you would like to pause, please pause now. The next few slides will cover scheduling.
All district and school test windows must fall within the statewide testing windows. When setting your school-level test windows, keep in mind that tests are not timed, and students should be allowed to continue testing as long as they are making progress. While there is no set time limit, schools may find it helpful to set schedules using the estimated testing times table in section 5.1 of the TAM. This shows times based on the 80th percentile, or the amount of time needed for 80% of students to complete the test. Many students will finish faster, and some, approximately 20%, may require additional time. When planning your test schedule, consider the options for breaking up the test across multiple test sessions or days. Section 6.4 of the TAM includes information about the pause rules and test expirations that apply by test.
As an optional tool, TIDE will enable DTCs, DLUs, or STCs to set school-level test windows by grade and subject. Shown on the slide is a mock-up of the tool. This optional tool can be helpful in preventing TAs from inadvertently including incorrect tests in testing sessions and approving students to start the wrong test. Building a testing schedule at any school can become a very complex task. Here are some suggestions of considerations for building a testing schedule. First, take an inventory of all potential locations and devices that will be used for testing. Starting with a clear picture of the space and technology resources will help identify potential resource issues early in the planning process. Second, identify students who will be taking each test. Don't forget to consider special accommodations such as Braille interface or students taking the extended versions of ELA, math, or science. Early identification of students who will be taking multiple tests can inform later decisions to mitigate student testing fatigue. Next, determine your non-negotiables. These are unique to each school or district and should be a reflection of your local values, school culture, and priorities. Examples of non-negotiables are previously scheduled events during testing that should be avoided, such as a field trip for an entire grade level. The preferred sequence of grade levels and tests, after taking into consideration the recommendations provided in the TAM, may differ depending upon the grade configuration of your school or district. The days of the week and time of day that testing will be held, such as avoiding Fridays or testing only in the mornings, should be decided up front. Schedule format could be scheduled to the minute or very flexible and should align with established local practices. As the testing schedule begins to take shape, build in makeup sessions throughout testing. Waiting until the end of the testing window is not a best practice and may put completing performance tasks at risk. Anticipate and plan for schedule adjustment processes so that alterations can be made during testing when necessary with minimal disruption. Finally, don't forget to include plans to communicate the testing schedule to staff, students, and the community. Remember that the testing schedule should ensure that adequate resources such as technology, space, and time are provided to students so that they are best able to demonstrate what they know and can do on the tests. This is an optional point in the required training to pause and discuss the questions provided or a locally developed set of relevant questions. If you would like to pause, please pause now.
TCs are also responsible for identifying which students need to challenge up to a higher grade level. Your regional ESD partner is available to assist with the challenging up setting in TIDE. The rules for challenging up are unique to each test, and only a high-level summary is provided here for those rules. Consult Appendix B, Special Testing Conditions in the TAM for more detail.
Test coordinators are also responsible for identifying which students need to challenge up to a higher grade level. Your regional ESD partner is available to assist with the challenging up setting in TIDE. The rules for challenging up are unique to each test, and only a high-level summary is provided here for those rules. Consult Appendix B, Student Inclusion, in the TAM for more detail.
Next, we'll cover student participation.
Official participation calculations are based upon all students enrolled on the first weekday in May, regardless of where or when the test was administered. The participation expectation remains 95% of all students in each tested grade for the general or extended ELA, mathematics, and science tests. For the English Language Proficiency Assessment, all eligible students are expected to participate. These participation requirements are set by federal statute and have been upheld in the most recent reauthorization of ESEA, the Every Student Succeeds Act. Participation requirements apply at the school, district, and state levels. Specific to managing student participation and tracking parent-requested opt-outs, TCs are responsible for tracking ELA and math opt-out requests in accordance with ORS 329.479. Districts are responsible for providing parents, guardians, and adult students with the ODE-provided 30-day notice and opt-out form 30 days before the start of the statewide test window. Districts are also responsible for providing parents, guardians, and adult students with an annual notice at the start of each school year. Both the annual notice and the combined 30-day notice opt-out form are posted on ODE's website at the link shown at the bottom of the slide. Section 5.3 in the TAM includes guidance on appropriate communication protocols. TCs are responsible for ensuring that all opt-out forms received are appropriately documented, implementing a process to ensure these students do not test accidentally, such as blocking students in TIDE, and entering admin code X in the assessment record updating application during validation. OAR 166-400-0010 governs the record retention requirements for school districts. Section 46 requires that test administration records, which includes related documentation such as opt-out forms, be retained for a minimum of 3 years after the school year in which the records were created. As a reminder, parent requests for exemption from science and ALPA summative may only be approved on the basis of the student's disability or religion, consistent with OAR 581-021-0009. The state-developed opt-out form required by ORS 329.479 does not apply to these tests.
The specific approach to communicate with parents about state testing and the option to opt out is up to each district and their local communication protocols. ODE has posted a variety of resources to support districts in these conversations through a communications toolkit available at the link provided at the bottom of this slide. All resources are available in multiple languages.
This is an optional point in the required training to pause and discuss the questions provided, or a locally developed set of relevant questions. If you would like to pause, please pause now. We will conclude with a few helpful contacts and resources.
Your regional ESD partner is available to provide hands-on support to answer questions and assist with processes such as setting student accessibility supports, challenge-up opportunities, and submitting assessment-related data collections. Contact information for the regional ESD partners for all 3 regions can be found using the link provided on this slide. Contact the OSAS Help Desk for technical support with the testing software and testing platform. Contact ODE's assessment team with questions about policy or specific tests.
Finally, the links to the resources referenced on previous slides, as well as others that will be helpful through the year, are provided here. This concludes the Test Coordinator Training module.